Hello everyone, welcome to the first ever episode of Cooking with Klas. Today, I'll be making my favorite dish that my dad makes called Czechiński goulash. I'm always looking forward to this dish going back home, but it's not just my favorite dish, it's a titan of the traditional Czech dishes. So what we are going to need today to make this irresistible dish is 4 onions, 4 cloves of garlic, a bunch of butter, 4 bay leaves, 2 spoons of paprika, 1 spoon of caraway seeds, a jar of sauerkraut, heavy cream, sour cream for serving, 800 grams of pork belly or pork shoulder, and flour, and the stock that we have going on right now. Alright, so let's just jump right into it. The proper foundation of every goulash is a lot of onions. So we want to mince these as thinly as possible. Cooking and cutting onions is the first cooking skill that I really mastered because the onions are a backbone of every Czech dish. So my parents trained me as early as possible to really make me useful in the kitchen when cooking Czech meals. Alright, so once we have all our onions chopped, we put them into our large pot where we have some lard or butter that's already melted, and then we just fry the onions. Already starting to smell good. Okay, so while our onions are frying, we want to prepare our pork belly, and then we want to dice the pork belly into nice little bite-sized cubes that are about this size, so there'll be like a bite or two. Alright, so once our onions start to really take on a nice golden color, we're going to take 1 teaspoon of caraway seeds, and then really going to throw in our pork belly pieces and make sure we turn up the heat and get a nice color on them. Okay, so while our pork belly picks up a nice color to firm up, we want to crush our garlic because we're going to put that in after it takes on a really nice color. Alright, so you can see our pork's really taking up a nice color. So what we want to do is we want to take 2 tablespoons of flour, and then our crushed garlic, and then simmer some more. We're going to make sure we mix that. Alright, so after a minute, we add 2 tablespoons of paprika. And then simmer again. Make sure we really get that mixed in. It's actually funny, in the recipe it says sweet paprika and add spicy paprika by taste because Czech people have a really low tolerance for spicy food because most traditional Czech dishes are not spicy at all. I actually developed the spice tolerance here in San Diego, and now every time I go home I use the sweet and sour sauce or sriracha sauce on my food to really stunt on my mom that I can handle all the spice, and she goes, "Oh no, careful, it's too spicy." So Czech people are really not good with spice. Alright, now look at the great color of the meat. So once we have this, all the paprika mixed in, we take our broth and we pour that in. And then add the 3 bay leaves. Mix it up a little bit, and then we just let it braise. So we put the lid on. The meat braise, and this will take about 30 minutes for the meat to braise into semi-tender because we'll be adding the sauerkraut and then cooking the meat fully. While our meat is braising in 30 minutes, we want to work on our dumplings later, so we're just going to get the potatoes started, and we just have boiling water, and we just throw those in. and get those ready for later. Okay, so it's been about 30 minutes on the braising of our pork belly. So if you take a look, it smells delicious. So now our meat is about half tender. So now is when we add the sauerkraut, and then we keep braising for another 30 minutes. So here's our sauerkraut, and then we add the sauerkraut, and we add a little bit of the juice as well to get that flavor. But we don't add all the juice. Alright, make sure you get all the sauerkraut because that is my favorite part. Alright, so now we have a sauerkraut in and we go back to braising and we stir occasionally just to make sure everything's all good. Okay, so as we occasionally stir our goulash here and let it braise for another about 30 minutes, we want to get started on our dumplings. So we're going to need about 1 kilo of potatoes, 3 eggs, 1 tablespoon of potato starch, and 2.5 cups of flour. Alright, so we want to have our potatoes slightly undercooked because we're going to recook them as the dough for the dumplings. And we just want to take off the skin of the dumplings. And then we just want to start grating the dumplings so we can use it as a dough. Alright, so once we finish grating all our potatoes, we can see we have them all here. We're going to use the 3 eggs. Slowly incorporate our 2.5 cups of the flour. And then we flour our board some. And keep adding our flour. Now we add our spoon of potato starch. And we keep mixing. Keep adding our flour intermittently as we mix it in. Oops. Have all the ingredients incorporated, we start to roll out our dough into little tubes, so then we can make little dumplings that we just cut up. We're going to split this in half. And then we're going to make 2 rolls that we just roll up nicely. And then the secret is to roll it up and then start cooking them as early as possible in salted water, because the longer we let them rest, the more they are likely to break up. Right, so we really want to get it nice and rolled out here. Alright. So once we have nice, relatively even roll, we just take it, our knife, just go 1, 2. Then we just take it, and roll our balls up. And then these will be our dumplings. Alright, so once we get them into nice round balls that we're kind of happy with, we just put them into salted water, and then we just make sure that they're not sticking to the bottom, and we just let them cook. Alright, so while our dumplings are cooking up, we just want to put our finishing touches on the goulash. I'm going to take this off, and then add 200 milliliters of cream to really bring the texture together and tenderize everything up. And then we're going to mix that in. And let it simmer for 5 minutes. And look at the color on that. Alright, so once our dumplings kind of start floating, we just want to do a check on one. Just cut it in half. And see, for this one, we can still kind of see the potatoey texture, like a mashed potato, so we know that it's still undercooked. So now the dumplings are floating, so we'll start by taking out the smaller ones, and we want to put them into a bowl or a pan of melted butter or lard. This prevents them from kind of drying up, and we keep them nice and tender and soft and really tasty. And then after we put them in the butter or lard, we can just kind of let them rest. We don't have to really worry about them that much. Alright, so while the last batch of dumplings is cooking and this other batch is resting in the melted butter, the final touches, of course, salt and pepper after tasting. We season adequately with salt, and then add some pepper. And then we taste and adjust, and then that's it for the goulash. Alright, so our last batch of dumplings is good to go, so we'll take them out again into the melted butter or lard to make sure they have that nice texture, and then we are ready to serve. Alright, so we have our dumplings, so we're ready to serve, so preferably a bowl because we got round dumplings and sauce. So we'll take a couple of dumplings, put them onto our plate. And then we'll take a nice spoon and really get the sauce on there. Make sure we get some good meat, sauerkraut, and get all the goods. Okay. Not the best visually looking dish, but we add a little bit of touch on it with some sour cream. Just a tad. That's how it's served. And then we are good to enjoy. And since I'm making this because my American friends never know what Czech food, I'd like to invite my American friend Austin here to really give it the first shot.
Thank you. So do I just mix it all and eat it?
So just take a meat, take a dumpling, and really get in there. Oh, it's probably gonna be really hot. Sorry for the difficulty. Alright, I'm dying to try this myself as well.
It's really good.
What do you think about Czech food? Do you feel like you have a grasp on what Czech food is now, Austin?
A little bit.
And of course, Czech food comes best with Czech beer. The Czech Republic is actually the #1 consumer of beer per capita, so Czech beer always comes well with Czech food.